r/ask Reddit. What's a red flag when looking for a job? If the job description has about 20 items of which one is sales, your job is going to be sales. If the job description has multiple items, then the majority of your duty is going to be the worst one of those items. A bit like occasional weekend means occasional weekend off. Earning potential is stress over current salary. In 5 years you can be making X. Cool, add that to my offer as guaranteed and we have a deal. Well, it's not guaranteed. Oh, gotcha. So what you're saying is that statement holds no value. I applied to a place where they were offering me 30% less than what I was currently making. They said that's because you'll be making that up in your performance bonus plus more. Hard pass from me on that one. Such a slap in the face of an offer. Master's degree preferred for an entry-level job. But the worst part is that they're getting what they ask for. I've been applying to so many master's degree preferred entry-level jobs, and always getting passed over for other people with a master's that have 10+ years of experience and are perfectly willing to take entry-level pay. Making jokes about overtime and crunch time. Guaranteed it's going to be a nights and weekends are optional, but not actually optional. Place. I went to an interview where the guy said we don't end the day until everyone is done, and sometimes that takes another hour on a busy day. Then my genius brain said, yeah, I don't want to work constant overtime. What was I thinking, expecting to go home when my contract says I go home? In reality, maybe an hour overtime can easily turn into 2 hours overtime every day. Having to pretend this is normal is toxic AF. When I was a GM for Chipotle, I would constantly work 12+ hour days, salary, and one busy weekend I worked 15 hours on Friday and 15 on Saturday, and on Sunday I decided to go to the gas station and eat my donuts in my car and just listen to the radio for like 10 extra minutes to just kind of unwind. You better believe the area manager was there the next day with a write-up in hand because I was 10 minutes late on Sunday, but when I asked what about the other 10 extra hours I put into my store the previous days, that's just part of the job description. Initially unpaid, but will result in full-time offer upon completion of ZIS. This will be an excellent chance to expand your portfolio and gain lots of exposure with leading global brands. Graphic designer here. My favorite response to this. You can die from exposure. We work hard and play hard. It actually means all work and for sure no play. Translation. You will work 60+ hours a week and are expected to come to the company happy hour whether you drink or not. Hiring lots of people on the same position. Everyone who calls gets a job. Often means the job is either bullshit or they're setting you all up to compete for the actual job. When they shit talk previous employees, they're going to do it to you. Same goes for them insulting current employees behind their back. I saw that during my orientation. 2 supervisors were loudly talking about how useless an employee was after they got off the phone with him. Even if it's true, the fact that they don't care who hears them is a sign of a toxic work environment. Always ask them why the person you are replacing left the job. The way they answer this could be a red flag. I always ask how is performance measured and what's the next step, when will I hear back, and any other question that may have come up during the interview. But I like this question. I'm going to add it to my interview question list, depending on the truthfulness of the answer. This could have saved me from a job a few years back. I took a security guard job in college as a part-time gig. In the interview the owner said the guy I was replacing was just lazy. On my first day I asked one of my co-workers and it turns out he was shot in the face while on duty. Too lazy to drive himself to the hospital, I guess. We are a family here, which means this is how they try to make up for the shitty pay and long hours. Or if a prospective employer ever says, "We're like a family here," what they mean is they're going to ruin you psychologically. A former co-worker shared this tidbit with me years ago and it works wonders. Try to schedule your in-person interview as late in the afternoon as possible, relevant to your position. If you're expecting a 9-5 job, schedule your interview for 4 o'clock or 4:30. You probably discussed after hours work etc during the interview. When you are done, you should be able to look around. Are people still working? Is the parking lot empty? You can match up the evidence with what was claimed during the interview and from that, judge how realistic the entire job description is based on how they treated the after hours work. Just make sure there isn't a staggered schedule or multiple shifts. Most of my positions are listed from 8-430, but about half the office works 6-230 or 9-530. Then since most of my salary guys want to climb the ladder and appear busy, they stick around for 15-20 minutes to leave after their bosses. This was a red flag I had during an interview process once. I was doing a phone interview for an IT position, and the person I was interviewing with basically changed the details of the job during the interview. Instead of the first shift hours the position promised, he immediately went into saying it would be 6+ months before the opportunity for first shift would even be a possibility. Also, he was big into asking how dedicated I was to jobs. The idea of weekend shifts, again, not in the original description, kept coming up, and how everyone had to be a team player and help out on weekends when needed. The kicker was when he started talking about how many hours he worked. He was bragging that he was up at 6 AM every day working. Then he'd go into the office for the day, come home to see his family for dinner, and get right back to work until 10-11 PM every night. I had never been turned off from a job faster in my life. He asked me to think things over, and he'd send me some paperwork via email. Needless to say, I called him the next morning and declined the job. It was the worst interview process I'd ever been in. I'm an IT as well. Some of the interviews I had before landing my current job were very similar. Had one interview where the manager belittled one of the techs just before he walked into the room. Probably didn't realize the door was open, lol. I'm really lucky though, since my current position is awesome. I work with some really friendly people. It's a small company and that's what I prefer. I had a potential employer brag to me about their hours too. Yeah, technically the hours are 9-5, but everyone in the office is here by 7 AM and we typically don't leave until 9 or 10 PM. And was trying to spin it as look at us and how motivated we are. Looking for rock stars in the job description. Unless of course the posting is in fact for a position to be a rock star. Job description. You will be in charge of the online marketing. Because of that, we expect that you will also be the web developer, photoshopper, community manager, coffee maker and dong sucker. That kind of crap will tell you if the business understands the role they are looking to fill or are just expecting some kind of magical entity that will do everything online related by himself. But yeah, definitely this. Make sure you have a clearly defined job description and not one that is vague enough to have a lot of tacked on bullshit. Any job that requires an upfront cost. This is a telltale sign that you are getting wrapped up into a MLM pyramid scheme. No, I will not pay for my uniform to work at your pizza place. Are you insane? Technically I paid for my uniform at the fast food place I worked at. They simply took it out of my paycheck. I turned down a second interview for a position in which the interviewer said something to the effect of, if your boss emails you on a Friday night, you don't have to respond. But you know how that looks. Made it pretty clear that they expect work to be your first priority. It looks like I don't want that job, lol. When they say you could be earning 6 figures in less than a year. When the posting lists the salary range as $50,000, $300,000. That means it's an all-commission sales job. I remember one job interview where this ridiculous HR girl offered me much smaller salary than what I asked for, with an explanation that they don't believe in comfortable salaries, but I could make 6x as much within the next few months. Duck off. Oh yeah, and it took 4 rounds of interviews to get to that point. One of which was just me working there for a day for no pay. Duck jobs like that too. But I was really inexperienced back then. An employer who treats you like they are doing you a favor. With good servant leadership, it should be the other way around. An unclear job description, or a job description that includes too many duties, not being offered the opportunity to see the working areas or talk to people who would be your peers, just generally trying to feel out whether or not they have things under control or not. I don't want to walk into a shit show. I had a team lead interview me for a contract once say bluntly, "You don't want to work here. It's horrible." He was right and still undersold the experience somehow. And you still took the job? Come on, man. I interviewed for a company that had a recruiter after me pretty hard. The company was just moving into my market and the reviews on Glassdoor definitely mentioned people being frustrated with the bro culture. All of my interviews were over FaceTime with the managers showing up in their pajamas from home and admitting that since the company is still growing, the workload was pretty much 7 days a week until you got your new team hired and running. It just wasn't very professional and it was obvious they didn't have structure or care about people's time. I also don't trust companies that brag about things like Nerf gunfights around the office and constant happy hour events. Those perks are fun, but it's clear when that's all they talk about in the job posting that they're trying to distract you from other issues. I need to see that your company culture is enriching and creates success, not free lunches. Places who always say they're hiring and always taking applications, but you never actually see anyone new being trained or anything. It means people are quitting constantly and management isn't hiring new people. So they are critically understaffed on top of poorly managed. I think it's a weird question to ask a prospective employer, but an important one. What are your company values? It's kinda like asking on a first date your date's life philosophy. But man, it becomes evident when a company has no values. And if you don't have anything to strive for other than $1, your employees won't last. Make sure you word this correctly too. They may have their values on their website, but really they don't practice what they preach. They can see this as that you really didn't research the company. I'm going to be using what did your company do for employees during COVID-19? Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.